What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Doc and Dog, presented by the Fantasy Mafia. We are finishing up our ranking series today with our outfielders. We're going to be going through those ranked 21 through 40, and our next episode will go through the top 20. My name is Jordan Jaika, aka Dr. Fantasy, and I'm here with my co-host Rydawg. Rydawg, what's up? You ready for some baseball? We're only a few days away here now.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. And people aren't really believing that the season's going to happen, but 60 games, 20 games, 160 games, there's baseball, so we got work to do, Doc.
Lots of work to do, and we'll have lots of stuff coming out as the season approaches and as we roll through, giving some recaps every week of the game action. And, we'll have to start talking about some streamers. I think that's going to be very important during this fantasy baseball season. You don't have a 162-game season to mess around with. You only got 60 games if your league is going on, so you really got to start off hot out of the gate as a fantasy owner. So we'll get into that later, but today we're focusing on outfielders, so we'll kick it off with our consensus rankings. Number 40, Rhys Hoskins of the Philadelphia Phillies. Last season, he batted .226 with 86 runs scored, 29 home runs, 85 RBIs, 2 stolen bases. Now, I know this is a guy you're much higher on than me. I'm not a big Hoskins fan. Even he continues to slip in drafts. I mean, I've seen him a few times. He's starting to go in the 90 to 100 plus range. I'm just not sold on him. I've said this several times in the past, but in today's game, there's so many power hitters. So many power hitters. And I can assure you that I can find somebody that hits higher than, 226 is a little fluky. I think he's more of like a 240, 250 kind of guy, which is still not impressive to me. I can take Albert Pujols and he hits that right now at 40 years of age. Not that he's an outfielder, but I think there's so much power in today's game. So Hoskins isn't a guy that I necessarily target unless I'm really looking for some power. Maybe I've completely neglected it earlier in the draft, but a lower average guy, and don't expect 226. He's very streaky, so he's a guy to watch during the shortened season because it's realistic that you blink your eyes and he's batting 210 for the entire season just because that's how streaky he is. So if he starts off cold, don't be afraid to bench him, and vice versa. If he starts off hot, you might see a huge season for him.
Yeah, and I think that's why I like him, this year with this shortened season. And you got to put in perspective that offense is definitely solid. So, power hitters are a dime a dozen, but, the RBIs are going to come out. I think he'll improve his batting average from the 226. He'll probably bat maybe 240, 250. He's not much of an average hitter, but the RBIs and the runs are going to come in, and I think his home runs will improve as well. We'll see what happens throughout the season, but, once he gets hot, he'll stay hot, and if he's cold, he's going to stay cold. You can't reach on him either. He's starting to slip, as you said. You basically took everything I was going to say, but you're getting Andrew McCutchen back as well for a full season. He's healthy. Gene Segura and Didi Gregorius. The lineup is just kind of stacked with steady guys and veterans, so there's room for improvement for Hoskins to take different approaches at the bat.
I agree. We'll go to number 39, Justin Upton. Last season, he only had 219 at-bats. He had a 215 average, 34 runs scored, 12 home runs, 40 RBIs, 1 stolen base. Now, he's a guy that I get behind in drafts. He has great value right now. He struggled with injuries last year. I think that's really the reason that his numbers started to slip as much as they did. So he's going way late in drafts right now. He's, I think, beyond 120. I'd have to look up the exact number here, but he offers great value. I like the lineup that he's in a lot, so I think that he's a great bounce back candidate.
Yeah, and I've liked Upton. I've watched him since his UVA days. I have followed the Upton brothers, more specifically Justin, just because he's always had the more talent and potential. But Justin Upton had a fluke year last year. It is what it is. He's always been consistent. Upton has always been your outfielder 2, outfielder 3 if you're lucky. And I'll take him as where he's at going in my utility. But it's going to be great getting a guy that's so consistent and going so late, and then you can almost guarantee what you're going to get out of your utility spot as a guy that's going to hit 25 plus home runs, who has potential for 80 plus RBIs. And really has potential for a 270, 290 average. I wouldn't say 290, but more so the 270, 280 range, and he's going to score some runs as well. Upton is definitely one of my favorite players to watch as a fan perspective, and I think getting Otani in and Rendon now coming in too, it's going to be a very fun offense to watch. And Upton will definitely be able to hold his own. And if he can hit in that fifth, maybe fourth spot, depending where they want to hit him, he'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And he actually was going 199 in drafts. So, I mean, that's kind of insane.
And it's really sad. And we talk about this in other sports, etc. You know, you have one injury throughout your career and people write you completely off, which is, it's always been really bullshit in my opinion for people to write them off after an injury, especially someone that's been so consistent. And age doesn't really put much of a factor in my opinion as it does in football too. So
Yeah, I mean, we see guys perform. We see Nelson Cruz having the best years of his career right now at 40.
He's just having a ball of the time out there at DH, Nelson Cruz, in that offense.
I love Nelson Cruz this year. I think that he could win MVP, which sounds crazy, but I love Nelson Cruz.
I hope so.
Number 38 in our outfield rankings here, Bryan Reynolds of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Last season, he batted .314 with 83 runs scored, 16 home runs, 68 RBIs, and 3 stolen bases. I remember talking about him in our Pirates mini-series when we broke down each team, and I love Bryan Reynolds. He's probably my favorite player from the Pirates, and that's not really saying much from a fantasy perspective, but I mean, I mentioned that .314 average. It's kind of interesting to note that he's never not batted .300 at any level in professional baseball. So single A, double A, triple A, and now the majors. He's never batted below .300. So this is a guy that you're getting late in drafts. I mean, he is not being very highly valued. Going pick 162 right now, and you can lock him in. He's going to bat will he bat .300 every single season? No. But even if he bats high 290s, low 300s, I mean, he offers fantastic value. It's tough. I think there was only 24 players, I believe, that hit 300 last year. So he was one of those guys, and I love where he's going in drafts. I just wish he wasn't on the Pirates.
Yeah, and I think that's the only really downfall of him is he's on the Pirates. He does everything you need him to do. He has some pop in his bat. I mean, RBIs and runs are going to be tough to come, but average is also, it seems like it's more of a power hitting league than an average league. So you getting a guy like Reynolds is definitely someone you can put in that third outfield spot, in my opinion, and he'll provide excellent average.
Yeah, and if you play in a league with OPS included, actually, you look at those 16 home runs, and you say, not overly impressive, but he had 37 doubles and 4 triples as well. So he does a little bit of everything.
He really does, and he's definitely one of the very few bright spots in that Pittsburgh offense.
Yep. Number 37, Oscar Mercado of the Indians. Last season, he batted .269, 70 runs scored, 15 home runs, 54 RBIs, 15 stolen bases. Didn't start the entire year. So Mercado's been one of my favorite sleepers this entire offseason. I thought that he was I won't say a shoo-in, but I was pretty confident he was going to have a 2020 season this year. And I've talked at length before how challenging it is to find those guys. But one of the concerning reports for me, I probably would have had him even higher for me personally. We both had him at 35, actually. I would have had him even higher. But what really concerns me is they're looking at moving him down in the lineup, and this is just a report that came out over the past few days. And that's really concerning to me. He was supposed to be batting second in a really nice Indians lineup, which means lots of runs scored for him, lots of opportunity to drive in runs, steal bases at the top of that lineup. So I loved him if he batted in the 2-hole, but there's some reports they're going to be batting Cesar Hernandez in the 2 spot. I don't know why you would do that if you're the Indians. That's beyond me, but it looks like he may be starting off the season batting 8th, and I don't like that spot for him, and I think that takes away a lot of his opportunity. Now, if he does bat in the 2-hole, it's a whole new game. But in a shortened season, I mean, he might end up playing half this year in the 8-hole because it looks like he's going to have to earn his way up that lineup.
Yeah, and it's honestly a shame, really, because Mercado has way more pop in his bat than Cesar Hernandez, in my opinion, by far. I mean, I'm thinking the only reason why they're doing that is maybe from a speed perspective. Maybe they think Hernandez he's quicker off the hit than Mercado, but Mercado also had 15 stolen bases. I can't really justify or see the reasoning why. Maybe it's a lefty-righty matchup. I really don't know why they would put Mercado in the 8 hole and have Hernandez hit the 2 hole. It really doesn't make sense, but it does impact Mercado's value if he's going to play the whole year in the 8 hole.
Yeah, and Hernandez is not that he's old. He's 30 now, but he only stole 9 bases and played 161 games for the Phillies last year. So Mercado is much younger, has more speed, more upside. So maybe they're thinking more strategically, and you got to win games. I mean, you only have 60 games now. You don't have 162 games to mess around, so you really have to start off strong. So that's the only thing I can think of is they want to go with the veteran over Mercado.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, and we've talked about this earlier in an earlier podcast we did a couple weeks ago, where they're going to start in a shortened season. The coaches are going to want to get their veterans out there. So, and this brings up a very good example of what we're talking about. The younger guys are taking a back seat or a later role in the lineup, and then the veterans, even though they're not as high ceiling talented wise, but that's where the veterans are going to come in with the shortened season to see if they can knock on and get some wins.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see the strategy team to team, because a team like the Indians, I get it. They're going to be very competitive, probably World Series contenders. They're one of the better teams in the AL, so I get it. They're trying to win now. They're going to, do whatever they have to do to win, but I think it's interesting to watch a team like the Orioles. I mean, there's no chance that the Orioles are going to do anything. So to me, based on the service time and the way that they negotiated this deal, is they only have to wait a week to keep those guys off the 30-man roster. And then there's no service time issues, and it's still delayed a year. So if I'm on the Orioles, honestly, I'm bringing up all my top prospects after a week. I'm giving them the opportunity to shine in the big leagues and try to build some momentum in the future, because that's really all you got at this point for the Orioles. I'm not really all into, let's win now, because there's really no benefit in trying to do that for them.
Yeah, no, at all. I mean, they're not going to hurt. They don't really even have any decent veterans, the Orioles, that have a win now mentality. I mean, I guess Chris Davis is going to come back and be a force to be reckoned with, right? They don't have anybody, so I mean, I agree. Get your prospects out there, let them get some playing time.
Yep. Then we'll move on to number 36 in our outfield rankings here. Michael Brantley of the Astros. Last season batted .311, 88 runs scored, 22 home runs, 90 RBIs, 3 stolen bases. He's a guy that has been so forgotten in Houston, and he continues to slip in drafts. And I just think it's because when you think about Houston's lineup, I mean, what's he, the 6th or 7th best hitter? And that's nothing against Michael Brantley. This is a guy that's made an all-star team. He bats with a high average, has power, drives in runs. There's really no negatives to what he does. It's just a matter of he's not the sexy name. He's not Correa, Altuve, Springer, Alvarez now. He's not up to that caliber. People don't see him that way. So he's going around pick 120 right now. I think that's good value for him just because he's a lost man in that lineup right now.
Yeah, he has tremendous value. Brantley was able to hold his own in Cleveland when he was with the Indians. And, I mean, the move to Houston, I mean, it's only going to help him, really. I mean, if he's going to be in that 6th, 7th hole, and you're still going to have those guys that are hitting 3 or 4, Alvarez or whoever, Correa on base. So, I mean, that lineup in Houston's just so deep. Even the guy hitting out of 6th or 7th hole is still going to get their share.
Yep, I would agree with that. Number 35 is Joey Gallo. Last season, he only had 241 at-bats, but he batted .253, 54 runs scored, 22 home runs, 49 RBIs, 4 stolen bases. I've never been the biggest Gallo supporter. I mean, this is a guy that he puts up power numbers. It's once again, if you need power, I mean, this is your guy. I mean, in a shortened season, we'll see how many dingers he can put up, but in a full season, if he plays a whole year, I'm putting him up for 40 dingers. I mean, that's the kind of hitter he is. You're getting power from him. I have a little bit of an issue with his ADP right now at 89. Just because, like I said, I just don't place a huge premium on power, I guess. That's my strategy. I think almost every player in the majors hits, it seems like 25 home runs now. So Gallo's on a whole nother level. So if you're looking for power, pick 89. It's fair for him. I'm all about my value, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's necessarily value, but I think it's fair for him.
Yeah, and I think Gallo for me, he's really a glorified Adam Dunn. I mean, it is. I call it how you see it. He's a guy that's never going to hit above 240. I wouldn't even see him hitting above 240. He's that guy that's a 220, 240. He's going to get his huge home runs, which is fine and all, but you can get power much later, honestly. And we've discussed this multiple times. And the Rangers' offense is okay.
Yeah.
He really doesn't have much help to really justify some RBIs with those home runs. I mean, maybe he can have 80 to 90 RBIs, but I would still need average. I pick 89. I'm looking at guys like Ozuna, possibly guys I know are going to hit a much higher average that have similar pop in their bat. For me, it just doesn't do
Yep. Number 34 is Max Kepler. Last season, he batted .252, 98 runs scored, 36 home runs, 90 RBIs, one stolen base. So one thing I'll kind of briefly mention, I love players on the Twins and Indians this year, and and I wrote about this in my Nelson Cruz article, is they have a really easy schedule. When you think about who they're playing most of their games against, the Royals, the Tigers, the White Sox, I mean, they have Giolito, but we still don't know how he's going to fare long term. Finally broke
it.
through last season, but am I
Yeah.
ready to call him an ace? No. And the
Oh,
rest of that White Sox rotation is young, and we don't really know what to make of it. So I'd say very underwhelming. And then they're also playing the NL Central, the rotation of the Pirates, the Brewers, the Cubs, and the Cubs rotation is not very strong.
no.
And you have the Reds, who have a few guys on top there. Cardinals obviously have Jack Flaherty, but the Cubs or the Reds and Cardinals, they have their kind of aces on the top there, and the rest of their rotations are kind of, I mean, we'll see how it turns out. So there's going to be a lot of cupcake matchups for Twins and
Yeah.
Indians players this year. So I love, and I've said this before, I love any batters from either one of those teams that are going to have big opportunity. Max, and we talked about this in our Twins episode. We already loved the entire Twins lineup. But now you throw in an easy schedule. I love Max Kepler, and I think he's going to provide awesome value.
Yeah, I would agree too. I think with Max Kepler, you're getting a guy that's definitely can hold his own. He just doesn't get the recognition he deserves. He's one of those quiet, under the radar, yeah, like a silent assassin type guy. That's what he really is, and he performs week in, week out. And I didn't really take much into the schedule into consideration. We already love the Twins for that deep lineup as they have, but and now the schedule as well. I mean, it just seems like a match made in heaven if you have a team full of Indians and Twins, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And normally, it's one of those things. It's funny when I was kind of doing an analysis of the shortened season. I mean, in a 162 game season, I would never consider the schedule. I mean, you're playing everyone, but this year's a little different just because you're really, they had the focus in the schedule because they're trying to make sure there's not a ton of travel all around the country. So, they're playing the same 10 teams pretty much the entire season. So, I really read into the schedule quite a bit this year, more than I ever have in the past. And I just think it's a whole different game that we're playing this year. So any small advantage you can get during the shortened season, I think, is something to consider.
I would agree.
Number 33 is a guy, we won't talk about him too much. He's been in every single episode, Danny Santana. I mean, I love me some Danny Santana, and I mean, it's been very well documented. Last season, he batted .283, 81 runs scored, 28 home runs, 81 RBIs, and 21 steals. I mean, I legitimately have brought him up 5 times now, so I won't beat a dead horse. I mean, I love my 2020 guys. He's going way beyond pick 100 right now. People just undervalue him. I mean, he's been a guy that's produced when he's in a lineup. It's just now he finally has an opportunity to consistently be in a lineup every single day. There's nobody that's going to be taking his job with the Rangers. He's going to be right in the heart of that lineup, somewhere 1 through 4, and he's a guy that can move all around your lineup too because he has so many different strengths as a hitter. So I love Danny Santana, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, we both love Danny Santana. He really has been in every single episode, it seems like. But he's consistent. I mean, you don't get many 2020 guys. We'll be talking about more 2020 guys throughout this episode and next episode, but there's really not as many as them as you think. And Santana, you can really plug in anywhere in your lineup, especially for those off days as well. And if the Rangers are only like a handful of teams are playing, so he's
Yep.
definitely a valuable asset.
We'll move on to number 32 then. Lourdes Gurriel Jr., another guy that I've liked. Back-to-back guys I really like here. Last season, Gurriel only had 314 at-bats, but was very impressive during that time. Batted .277, 52 runs scored, 20 home runs, 50 RBIs, 6 stolen bases. And we talked about this before. He's primarily going to be playing the outfield for the Blue Jays this year, but we're lucky enough he gets second base eligibility, and I think that's an absolute steal for the one season. He's probably not going to be eligible for second base in 2021, but I mean, I love the value that he provides as a second baseman. He's one of those guys. He's going as like the 17th second baseman off the board, something crazy like that. And I think he could easily be a top 10 second baseman for fantasy purposes. So I love the value he provides, and it'll be kind of interesting to watch that young Blue Jays lineup during the shortened season. A lot of potential and a lot of upside there, but they don't really have a lot of time to figure it out. Right now, they have Gurriel penciled in as the guy batting fourth, so he will have some opportunity to drive in runs there. So, and you can kind of flip-flop him and Vlad most likely, but either way, he'll probably be batting third or fourth. So, have an opportunity to drive in runs, score some runs, and we'll see how it goes for him. I'm interested to see how the young guys do this year.
Yeah, I am too. And I think I was like those young core guys, Biggio, Bichette, Vlad, and Gurriel. Gurriel always seems to like get discluded, I guess, in a way. I guess out of all the big four, Gurriel gets talked about the less, if that makes sense. So I really like Gurriel, especially since the spotlight isn't going to be on mostly him. He doesn't get as much of it, I think, as Bichette. Biggio, being Biggio's dad is Craig and etc. with Vlad, so I guess Gurriel is kind of like doesn't have as much pressure to live up to as the others. So I would think Gurriel would be able to succeed more.
Yep. Number 31, we're halfway done here. Michael Conforto. He batted .257 last season, 90 runs scored, 33 home runs, 92 RBI, 7 stolen bases, going around pick 115-ish right now. I mean, I love Conforto. I guess I'm biased because I'm a Mets fan. I mean, I love what he does for that locker room. I'm still underwhelmed by him, though. I think that he still has more. I mean, he was a first-round pick, a guy people had very high expectations for. He did make one All-Star team, but I still think there's more in the tank for him. And that's saying quite a bit just because, 90 runs scored, 33 home runs, 92 RBIs. You look at that line, that's a very nice line. And Andy chipped in 7 stolen bases. So if he stays on the field, he produces. I like the value of him. If he's your third outfielder, I'm pretty comfortable with that. And I like the Mets lineup this year. I think it's pretty solid. I don't think that it's, this was insane. I saw this about a week ago on MLB.com. They had a graphic, and the Mets had the 5th best lineup in the entire major leagues. I don't know about all that, but I think
Dang.
the Mets have a very solid lineup. I put them like borderline, maybe 11th or 12th if I had to list it out. But he'll be right in the thick of that, batting third or fourth, so he'll have lots of opportunity to drive in runs, score runs, and I'm hoping we see a big season from him. But overall, I think he's a solid third outfielder.
Yeah, I like Conforto a lot, actually. I mean, 33 home runs, 90 plus RBIs, 90 plus runs, 250 average. That's really good. I mean, and pick 115. I think that's really good value, actually. And once he gets that average up, he'll be an all-around great player. I mean, I think he's a good player right now. He's definitely a guy that I would love to have as my second or third outfielder. I mean, we're getting into that point with second outfielders now. So, I mean, with the decent lineup around him, he's definitely has the potential to break the 100 RBI, 100 runs mark as well.
Yeah, he is at an interesting point in his career too. He's 27 right now, just turned 27 about a month ago. So he's starting to hit that point in his career where have we seen peak Michael Conforto, or is he going to take that next step forward? So I think this is, and I've said this with a lot of the articles that I've written, even though it's a shortened season, and I feel like a lot of people are just writing the season off. I think it's huge for these guys that are playing because this can build some great momentum for next season. So if you see a young guy that really kills it during these 60 games, that's huge for his confidence moving forward in a full season. And Michael Conforto, not that he's super young anymore, 27, he's starting to hit the peak of his career, but if you see a huge season from him, that's just great momentum moving forward. And that's going to be, I'm going to read a lot into these 60 games for the 2021 season. And I don't think a lot of people are doing that, but I think confidence is very undervalued in baseball.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, people are afraid that with whole COVID-19 all this crap going on, they're afraid that if it starts up and then more cases start coming up, it might get shut down. I don't see baseball shutting down. I think they'll even plug in college kids,
Yeah.
single A guys until they just don't have anyone on their payroll until they have to go grab the kid out in the little league game playing for some youth team. So I mean, but seriously, I don't see them canceling the season at all. They have a commitment. They don't really care who has it, who doesn't. They don't care who opts out, who plays.
Yep.
I mean, they won't. They're going to play regardless.
Yeah, no, that's funny. I 100% agree with you, and I've said this to just people that I know several times because I get lots of texts and Facebook
Mhm.
messages. Is there going to be a baseball season? You don't really think that, right? And I'm like, I 100% do
Yeah.
because I'm telling you right now, I worked in minor league baseball for a few years, and I can tell you right now, if these major league guys want to opt out, those minor league guys, this is their dream to pay. They don't care if it's because of Corona or COVID. They don't care. Their dream is to make it to the major leagues. So if they have the opportunity to even play 60 games, that's a 60 game tryout for them. If they
Hmm.
kill it, they could make the rest of their career and make a roster next year and they're good to go. So no matter what, I agree with you. Even if it's double A, single A players that they get to, somebody's going to be thrilled to be starting in the major league in any major league game, whether it's a 60 game season, a 5 game season, it doesn't matter to these guys. And I understand some guys are scared for their health, and I completely understand that, and that's their decision to sit the season out. But there's some younger guys who are very excited for the start of the season, and they're going to be able to put a roster together no matter what. So I 100% agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be fun. I can't wait. We finally get a real sport to watch now.
Yeah, it's right around the corner too, which is it feels unreal to me because we haven't had sports in so long, and we're doing our MLB countdown, and I'm like, is it really only less than a week away? It just doesn't seem real right now.
I can't wait. It's going to be fun. Now they just got to get fans in stadiums eventually.
Yep. Yeah, man, that's a little disappointing that I'm gonna have to watch it all from home, but I guess I'll take what I can get at this point.
I know. Isn't it going to be sad you can't eat that ballpark frank and those drink those $20 beers?
That's the best deal in all of sports.
Absolutely.
Number 30 in our outfield rankings, Franmil Reyes of the Indians. Last season batted 249, 69 runs scored, 37 home runs, 81 RBIs, no stolen bases because that's not what he does. I mean, I've always liked Franmil Reyes. He's never been able to consistently get at bats in the past, so I think he's in a situation now where he's going to consistently get those at bats. I think he's going to be a premier power threat for the next 5 to 10 years. And I'm talking the kind of guy that's going to hit 40 home runs for multiple seasons. I mean, he has that kind of power, and he showed it when he plays. I mean, this isn't like batting practice power. Of course, he has that, but when he's in game situations, he showed that power. So I'm excited to see. He's one of those guys. This is huge momentum year for him. If he can play close to all 60 games moving forward, I think that's huge for him. I already mentioned that the Indians and the Twins schedules are really easy, so that adds a little bit on, that's more icing on the cake for me. Value wise, if you haven't drafted yet, he's another guy going past pick 100. So he's going pick 130 right now. So decent value there, even though I'm not thrilled with taking a guy that strictly is a power producer. But I'm excited for him. I just love his power, and I think he can produce big time.
Yeah, the talent's there, and it's gonna be. I believe this is his first year with the Indians, or maybe I think he got traded in the deadline last year.
Yeah, he was traded. Yep.
Yeah, so this was his first year with the Indians after getting departed from the Padres. So he's in a better lineup, all around better lineup. I mean, there's parts of the Padres I love, obviously, but I think the Indians just have a little bit of a better lineup, not by much. He should have a secured role now. So the ball's in his court. I mean, I think he could hit the 40 home runs if it was a full season. With a 60-game season, it's really hard to project, what he'll actually do. But I mean, full season 2021 or whatever, he will definitely get his 40 home runs, and he'll definitely get more than 80 RBIs. He's definitely a guy that, with a full season, he could be 40, 100 RBIs and 80 to 90 runs scored. He's definitely that guy that has that ability, and especially in this lineup.
Yeah, especially if he can hit in the middle of that lineup and he's behind Lindor and Mercado eventually. I mean, he can drive in a ton of runs.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be able to hit those guys in for sure. It's going to be fun to watch this season to see what he does in a full 60.
Number 29 is another Met here, Jeff McNeil, who has also been in a few of our rankings, so we won't talk about him too long, but he batted .318 last season, 83 runs scored, 23 home runs, 75 RBIs, 5 stolen bases. It feels like deja vu once again repeating those stats. But, and once again, he's another guy that he's been a consistent 300 hitter throughout the course of his career. And he's one of those guys that people just underrate because I mean, when you look at him, he just doesn't look like, a top-end athlete. He's just kind of his nickname's Squirrel. He's a squirrely-looking guy. He really is. And but he's a 300 hitter, and that's hard to find in today's game. He's going, let's see, his ADP's moved around a little bit recently. So he's going 105 right now. So still, I love that value for a 300 hitter. He does provide more power than people think. He didn't even play a full season last year and still hit 23 home runs. So he does have 25 home run power, which is kind of an underrated part of his game. So 300 hitter provides in multiple categories at the top of that lineup. So I've always loved the value of Jeff McNeil, and I think he's underrated.
Yeah, and I think around that pick 100, those are the guys you're going to want to get your average guys out. So we've already talked about Reynolds earlier in this episode, and now you got a guy like McNeil. See, there's way more power hitters than there are average hitters, and I think we can't express that enough. And with McNeil, he's definitely a guy that can hold his own in terms of getting contact, and even he has some pop in his bat as well. So you're definitely going to want to, when you're drafting, you don't want to always draft strictly for power. You're going to want to hit guys that hit average, especially in cats leagues. I can't really express that enough, because if your 5 cats are OPS average, that's 2 of your 5 offensive cats right there. So you're going to want to make sure you have guys that can very well hit the ball and get on base.
Yep, I definitely agree with that. Number 28 is another bounce back candidate for a lot of people. Andrew Benintendi of the Red Sox going to be leading off for him. Batted .266 last season, 72 runs scored, 13 home runs, 68 RBIs, 10 stolen bases. And I would say overall he's been very he had 2 back-to-back pretty big seasons for him, but last year was very underwhelming for a lot of people. But it's funny how quickly, once again, people forget about a guy. He's going pick 107 right now. This was a back-to-back 2020 guy in 2017 and 2018, and he's hitting at the top of a lineup, which should be very solid. I mean, they lost Mookie, but they still have some really young, talented players and Bogarts and Devers behind him, so he's going to score runs. I mean, this is a talented guy. He was a top 10 pick coming out of Arkansas. I remember all the hype surrounding him, so he's very talented. I watched him play throughout the minor leagues as well in person a few times. And he's another guy people forget. He's a 2020 talent, and I love that he's going past pick 100, and I took him quite a few times this offseason.
Yeah, Benintendi's actually really fun to watch. He's one of the 2020 guys we're mentioning. He's actually got a hits for average too. I believe outside of last year, he was a 280, 290 average for 270, somewhere in that area. He's definitely in the 270, 290 area. I don't have it in front of me, but he's also a guy that he does it all. In my opinion, he hits for power, he hits for average, he gets stolen bases, and in that pick 100, you're getting a guy that could very well be your second outfielder, and he was a outfielder 2, low outfielder 1 his first 2 seasons. So, I mean, one bad year, and then you're just going to drop him off the face of the top 100 is just complete absurd, in my opinion.
Yeah, and he actually had a career 282 average before last
Yep.
season. The 266 dropped him down to 277. So, yeah, I mean, still, he batted over 290 in 2 seasons. So he definitely, that 266, if anything, is the most fluky part of last year.
By far, I agree.
The number 27 is my boy, Luis Robert. Not a guy I'll say this first. Not a guy that I'm overly excited about with the shortened season. I mean, I hope his talent shines through quickly, but if he does slump like most rookies do in the beginning, he's also batting 8th in that lineup, which doesn't really excite me. That definitely will not be the case in 2021 because they would be insane to be batting him 8th. But going over his minor league numbers last year, he batted 328, had 108 runs scored, 32 home runs, 92 RBIs, and 36 stolen bases. I've said this before, but I mean, I 100% believe that he's the next Ronald Acuna. I mean, we've seen last season he had 41 home runs and 37 stolen bases, Acuna. And I really believe that Luis Roberts going to be that level of a player. And I think within 2 years, we'll be talking about him as a top 5 pick in fantasy drafts. But when you look at those numbers, I mean, that's absurd. And that was only in 120 games that he played throughout the minors last year. So, I mean, you're talking a 30 guy, almost 35 guy in 120 games, over a 300 average. I love taking him in drafts. He's going like pick 90 right now, just because I know he's a rookie, but that upside is just too juicy for me. And I love his talent, so I won't go on too much longer. But I love Luis Robert. End of story.
I like Robert too. As we've been talking, doing these pods and these episodes, etc. I've been on the Robert train. I think the one thing that's really gonna hurt him, I think it would be a confidence level with the shortened season and him batting 8th. I think that's definitely a knock on his confidence, not his confidence, but I mean, I think it's a knock of him thinking, they don't want to psych him out. You know what I mean? Why would you hit a guy with that much raw talent 8th? In that lineup, he should be hitting 6th, in my opinion. There's guys that he just is just better than, and he should be hitting higher. Not to mention with a shortened season, if you're not, you got to give him some confidence, or else he may not be what you want him to be. So I mean, from that standpoint, I think he very well could be a top 10 player going forward. But you got to give him some confidence. Don't just like throw him here. You're batting 8th in this shortened season. Let's see what you can do. That's not the type of attitude you should have at one of your best players on your team.
Yeah, that can always go one of two ways. It can go, he's going to have to, it depends what kind of attitude he has in life. He can want to claw his way up that lineup, or he can be content and, be sulky about it. I should be batting higher. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And I think it'll say a lot about him as a player. If he proves that he shouldn't be batting in that 8th spot, I would expect him to move up pretty quickly, but we'll see how that turns out. Number 26 in our outfield rankings, Nick Castellanos, now of the Reds. I had to think about that for a second. He batted 289 last season, 100 runs scored, 27 home runs, 73 RBIs, 2 stolen bases. First guy we're talking about on this list that scored 100 runs, so that's kind of interesting. We've talked about it before, but they're arguably the best team on paper. So that offense, that's a really strong offense. That ballpark should help him out a little bit. And I love his value right now. I mean, he's just another guy that we're in this range right now where I feel like every single one of these guys is being undervalued. I mean, we're talking about guys that are going, Castellanos is going pick 90, so a little higher than these other guys that we've talked about, but this is a guy that can hit 280, 100 runs scored, close to 30 home runs in a full season. I mean, those are fantastic numbers. He provides in multiple categories, and really his situation has improved. So, I really like where he's going.
His situation has improved a lot. I mean, and he's not the youngest guy in the world. I think people don't forget about that. And I like Castellanos for this year for a record, especially in that lineup. But I mean, he's really had a story. You think about he was with the shitty ass Tigers, and then he gets traded midway in the season to the Cubs, and now he's even in a better situation. So I mean, he's really the guy that just like found gold at the end of the rainbow. So I mean, and he has the talent. When the Tigers were decent, I believe when he first came up, he was actually showed his talent. And when he was like the last person left on the Tigers after Martinez, etc., all left, and he's there like, oh yeah, I'm here. And then he finally gets out too. So I like him a lot, especially with Suarez, Mustakis, Votto, etc., all still there. So I mean, he's going to get his. And especially in the 90th overall, I mean, it's great value in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Next in our list, and we are on number 25 now, is Jorge Soler of the Kansas City Royals. Had a breakthrough season last year, hit 265, 95 runs scored, 48 home runs, 117 RBIs, 3 stolen bases. I mean, I really like Soler. I wish he wasn't going. He's going 85th overall, which, considering this is a guy that I think has 50 home run potential. I mean, I really do. Based on what I saw last year, I don't think it's fluky. But you are taking a huge risk taking him at 85 overall. You're banking on him being a solid second outfielder. And I mean, I struggle with that a little bit just because he's with the Royals, number one. I mean, that makes him hard to trust, and I know you're going to bring that up. But I love his power and I love his ability. And as much as it's easy to find power in today's game, when you start talking about guys that hit 45 to 50 home runs, I mean, that's not exactly something that every guy in the majors does. So, and he's always been a big prospect. It was just a matter if he could stay on the field. And if he can, this is a guy that I think is going to be a big time power threat moving forward. I've taken him in a few dynasty leagues. I probably prefer him in a dynasty league over a redraft league, but I love his power potential. And once again, this is another big season. Can he put together 60 games where he is a top end power threat, and it can build confidence? And he's at a point in his career where it's kind of make or break.
Yeah, you kind of basically took everything I was going to say, but I just wish the Royals had someone to help them out outside of really Mondesi. And Mondesi isn't even really
Merrifield, your boy.
It's not my boy. But just the talent around him is just very hard for me to trust him as my second outfielder. The talent that he possesses definitely makes me trust him. And that's what it really boils down to is the talent around him. He could realistically hit 40 home runs again next year and then have like 60, 70 RBIs just because the talent around him is that bad.
Yeah. Yep, that's true. So big season for him. We'll move along. We only have a few more left in this episode. Number 24 is Ramon Laureano of the Oakland Athletics. One of my favorite sleeper targets this year. Going pick 101 right now. Last season, didn't start the whole year, but still batted .288. Had 79 runs scored, 24 home runs, 67 RBIs, 13 stolen bases. So, I mean, I love his value. This is a guy that I think in a full season can become a 25-25 guy. And when I think about it, I kind of think that he's going to be the next Starling Marte, your boy. You know, he's still young enough. That's your boy right there, Starling Marte.
That is my boy.
Come on, that's your boy right there.
Oh, I agree. That is my boy. I agree.
Laureano is one of the reasons for me personally why I don't like taking Marte this year. I mean, you can definitely Marte, I mean, he's going 70 picks higher than Laureano. I just like the younger version of Marte. I mean, I love Marte. There's no doubt that he's a safe pick, and we've talked about this before. He's 25 guy because he's done it before, and he's in a better situation now. So if you're looking for safety, I 100% agree. But, you know, I love my value and upside, so I like Laureano, and I think in the future he's going to be dangerous in that lineup, especially batting at the top of it.
Yeah, that A's lineup is really young and scary, and I like it. And I think Chris Davis could definitely improve so much more than that fluke season he had last year. It just seemed like Davis can hit the ball, but with Laureano, Chapman, Olsen, Semion's still there, etc. That lineup is just it's underrated, and it's going to be fun to watch. Young, great, hungry players, and Laureano can really do it all. I do see a younger Marte and Laureano, but I like the original. So, with my boy.
Fine, 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 fine. Let's see, where are we? Number 23, Tommy Pham. Last season, 273, 77 runs scored, 21 home runs, 68 RBIs, 25 stolen bases. Once again, another 2020 guy. And it's kind of interesting when you look at it. A lot of these 2020 guys are kind of going in that 100-ish pick range.
Yeah.
Like I said, those are the guys that I target. I mean, you can find value in terms of power much later in the draft. So once we start getting the picks, I'll say 70 to 120. I'm trying to rack up as many 2020 guys as I can get. These are guys that are getting on base, scoring runs. A lot of them have some power, bad at hitting 25 or so home runs. Tommy Pham had 25 steals last year, so they're providing in multiple categories, and that's what I try to aim for in these middle rounds. And Tommy Pham's just another example of that. We'll see if he can put together another solid season similar to last year. But, once again, he kind of, when you start talking about a lot of these guys, they're kind of in the same category, just nice value. It's one of the reasons I love waiting on these guys because there's just so much value to be had in these 5 or so rounds.
There really is a lot of value to be had, and Pham's definitely going to be improving those RBIs and runs, especially in San Diego as well. He's going to be hitting near or around Machado, Tatis, Hosmer, etc. So there's going to be guys that you're going to be able to drive him in, and he's going to be able to drive them in, depending where he's hitting in the lineup as well. So he's definitely an intriguing name to watch throughout the year.
Yep, and they have him batting second right now, projected. So Tatis first, Pham second, Machado third. So yeah, that's a great spot for him.
And then Hosmer in the cleanup hole. That's exactly how we ordered it up. So that's ideal for Pham.
You don't think they should have Jerks and Profar higher?
Oh, are you kidding me? He should be batting leadoff. I forgot. He's the best prospect ever.
All right, 2 more here. Number 22, Eloy Jimenez of the Chicago White Sox. Last season, he batted .267, 69 runs scored, 31 home runs, 79 RBIs. I love his talent. I think he's another guy that's going to be a prolific power hitter for years to come. He's currently been going around the 5th or so round, and that's kind of my problem with him. It's not a knock on his talent per se. But to me, I look at a guy like Franmil Reyes, who you can get, 50 or so picks later, and I think they can be similar players this year. I mean, they're going to provide a ton of power, not an overly high average. I would say Jimenez has a higher ceiling overall, and I think he has more talent and can be better than Reyes. But, for this year and redraft purposes, I think they can be pretty similar players. So I don't love Eloy's value and where he's going around the 5th round right now.
Yeah, I don't either. I think that's my problem as well. I mean, you can get guys much later that have the same similar power. I think Eloy could hit for a higher average and maybe potentially a couple more bases, but he's definitely known more for his power though. So at the 5th round, that's where I usually start to target a pitcher or two anyway. So, I mean, I don't own Eloy in any of my leagues, not because I don't like him, but it's just because I just look elsewhere.
Yep. I do as well. So our last one of today, number 21, Marcell Ozuna. Last year he batted .241, 80 runs scored, 29 home runs, 89 RBIs, and 12 steals. So this is a guy, he's been going pick around 105 in Yahoo leagues. It's so funny when you look at ADP differences on some platforms. Yahoo, he's going pick 105. ESPN, he's going pick 60. So, what that says about the players in each on Yahoo versus ESPN, I don't know, but he's one of the biggest differences when you look at both platforms. So if you're getting him around pick 105, man, I mean, that is fantastic value. And now he's in a much better lineup this season with the Braves. And it's kind of funny to me. He's another guy. I don't know why people are writing him off. He did miss some time last year, but he still almost had 30 home runs and 90 RBIs, chipped in 12 steals. And this is
Yeah.
a guy we saw hit almost 40 home runs a few years ago with 120 RBIs. So he has all the upside in the world, kind of under the radar, provides some steal value. He's in a great lineup. So, I like him a lot this year.
I do too. He kind of reminds me of a younger Justin Upton with more pop in his bat. And I think that's a very good comparison, just because he gets bounced around a lot from team to team, and Upton has also been being written off his entire career. And then it's a similar asset, but I think Ozuna is just more of a better hitter. And I think with the Braves lineup, he's going to be great. I mean, if you're getting him at pick 100, I mean, that's a league-winning pick in my opinion right there.
Yeah, and especially where you look at where he's batting in this lineup. They have him slotted in third. Two guys above him, Ronald Acuna and Albies. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really pick two better guys to hit behind. So he's going to have every
Yeah.
opportunity in the world to drive in runs.
And then hitting behind him is Freddie Freeman. So I mean, it's he's gotta get his. I mean, you got studs hitting all around you.
Yeah, and we'll see. They'll probably flip-flop Freeman and Ozuna between 3 and 4. A lot of projected lineups, when you look at it, don't have Freddie Freeman in there because of COVID. That's something we haven't really even talked about. I don't know if anyone we've talked about on this list is in danger of missing any time, but that's going to be a consideration this season. Make sure you're paying attention to guys that are already diagnosed. I know Charlie Blackmon's a big one right now, and I just read a report he's good to go for the season. So that's just something, it's one of those kind of, from a fantasy standpoint, it's going to be a nuisance to track, but make sure when you're going into the season that you kind of know which one of your players is at risk of not playing. Freddie Freeman, I believe, looks like he's going to be ready to go, but he was a little more symptomatic than other people are.
Yeah, they said Aaron Nola should be ready to go. I think they said LeMahieu has it. I'm not sure if he's ready. Is he ready to go? I didn't hear much news on LeMahieu, but I mean, they got announced when they had it a week ago, so they should be all ready to go.
Yeah, and I just looked. Freddie Freeman actually came out this morning as of this recording. Freddie Freeman's officially cleared and good to go for the season. LeMahieu just returned as well this morning. So those are, it seems like a lot of these guys, based on when they reported a few weeks ago, because you only have to be in quarantine for about 14 days. So a lot of these guys are returning with about a week to go until the season.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. So if you got 60 games, right? All right, so 10 games, that's about 8 weeks. So 8 weeks season, maybe. So if your guy gets COVID during this season, that's got to be rough. You think about it. They got to quarantine for 2 out of 8 weeks in general.
Yep.
You got streaming is going to be most important this year, in my opinion, especially with the world we're living in.
Yeah, and that's why I talk about the schedule a little bit with the Twins and Indians, because little advantages like that could be huge. So when you're looking at who are you going to stream, normally you're not looking at their matchups long term. You're saying, okay, this is a great pitching matchup for tonight. This is, they have an easy series coming up, but you can realistically start looking out in an 8-week season. Okay, they have an easy next 2 weeks coming up because they're playing the Pirates and the Tigers. So I think things like that are going to be huge this season, and we'll see as we start playing games if more guys get diagnosed, but it's unfortunately one of those things that we have to deal with as fantasy owners and as a society as a whole, so I won't undermine the severity of it there, but any notes you want to make on the 21 through 40 here?
Nope. I'll just check us out later in the week, and we'll be posting our 1 through 20s, and our countdown will still be continuing, and once the season starts, I believe we're doing a 30-minute recap throughout the week, Wednesday, of streamers, etc. And Saturday, Sunday. I think it's Saturday we're going to go live for about 30 minutes as well on the Hotspot and or the Mafia. And we're going to be breaking down the week as well, and then matchups we're looking forward to, etc. So there's a lot of content to be had throughout the week, and especially when the season starts.
Yep, so lots of stuff to look forward to. We've been seems like we've had the longest fantasy baseball off season ever. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Fantasy Mafia. Check out our Facebook. Our website is up and operational. Tons of content, usually 3+ articles going up every single day, NBA, NFL, and MLB. So make sure you check that out. And I think that's all the notes I have. You mentioned the Fantasy Hotspot as well. We're almost at 500 members. I'm hoping by the time we release this recording that we're already at 500. But keep inviting your friends, keep the conversation going, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye!
Peace.